If you have problems in your tracking, there's a good chance that these problems are caused by your cookie banner, because cookie banners are a big reason for problems in tracking. There's just so much that can go wrong. And in this video, I'm going to list over 20 problems that you can have in your cookie banner that I encounter regularly that will hurt your digital marketing or your tracking in some form. So if you want to solve your tracking problems, or if you want to prevent them from happening in the first place, watching this video till the end will be a great place to start. Let's dive in. Welcome to the channel. My name is Leon. This channel exists to help digital marketeers get trustworthy data so their campaigns can run at their full potential. I want to thank everyone that has been liking my videos and has subscribed to the channel, because that really helps me get these videos out to as many people as I can. As a way to say thank you, I have created a free cookie banner especially made for digital marketeers, and you can use that cookie banner instead of a paid consent management platform. It has no limits. You can download it via a link in the video description, and it comes with a free implementation workshop where I show you all the steps that you need to take to include it on your site. So again, if you're interested, download the free cookie banner via a link in the video description. And now let's dive into the content of this video. Alright, so we're talking about mistakes that can ruin your marketing data or your marketing in general. And the first one is very obvious, but it's a problem that I see all the time, and that's why I'm putting it up front, because it annoys me, because it's so easy to solve. And that is that people make the cookie banner way too small. So if this, especially on desktop devices, if this is your screen, they make the cookie banner like this small banner at the bottom of the page, or they put the banner on the top left or the top right of the page, and you can just keep using the site, and this leads to so many problems in your tracking. Because most of your data collection is dependent on people clicking yes, this really hurts your data collection, because people are able to ignore the cookie banner, and therefore people that ignore the cookie banner will not be tracked, and that means less data. The solution to this is easy, it's simple. Make the cookie banner as big as it can be. Make it hard for people to ignore the cookie banner. And don't get me wrong, you shouldn't make it hard for people to deny cookies. That's a different subject. We'll get into that. But you should make it hard for people to ignore the cookie banner. People should be forced to make a decision. Do I want cookies, yes or no? So I never put a cross mark on the cookie banner in the top right corner. It's just accept or deny. And I make it as big as possible, so people cannot use the page until they have made their decision. And this way your data collection is instantly better, because people will be forced to say yes or no. More people will click yes, and more people will be tracked, and your campaigns will run better for that. So the second reason, the second problem that I see with a lot of cookie banners is linked with the first one. You give people the ability to keep using the site below the cookie banner. So even though it's a full screen banner, you still don't have this overlay between it, so you can still use the navigation. And this is a problem, because if people use the navigation before they gave consent, they will navigate to the second page. And the second page is very different from the first page, because on the first page we have the referrer, so the traffic source where people came from, and we have a lot of the click identifiers in the URL that we need to be able to link the conversions back to their original traffic source and their ad campaign. So giving people the ability to navigate below, even though you have a full screen banner, people sometimes can still click in the navigation. You should disable that. So put a black or transparent layer over your page, and then on top of this put your cookie banner, so people are not able to navigate to another page before they gave consent. The third reason might be a little complicated, but it's actually very easy. Many people forget to implement delayed consent. It's a scenario that I named delayed consent, and it means that people come to your site and initially there's no consent yet. And this is happening to all your new users, because they came to your site for the first time. They open up your page and then they see a cookie banner. And initially there's no consent yet, so a lot of the tags will be blocked. So meta ads will be blocked, the Google ads will be blocked. A lot of the tags will be blocked, and then after a couple of seconds people decide, I'm gonna accept or deny cookies. And if people accept cookies, they give consent, but on many occasions people don't load the marketing tags on that moment. They wait to the second page. And again, if you wait to the second page to track, you lose a lot of important data around your traffic source. You don't have a refer, you don't have a lot of the click identifiers in the URL, and it becomes a lot harder maybe even impossible to link the conversions back to their original traffic source. So implement delayed consent to get better data around your traffic sources and marketing campaigns. So the fourth problem that I see a lot with cookie banners is that you're loading the tags in the wrong order. So Google Analytics, for example, you should be loading your consent mode tags first, then you should be loading your Google tag, and then you should be loading your events tag. If you're loading the events tag before the Google tag or even before the consent mode updates, the event tag will not work properly. And this happens a lot with thank you page triggers, where you're setting the generate lead event, for instance, on the thank you page, on the page load, and then the consent signals are loaded after that. So you're loading the Google tags after that. Well, that is a problem. Also, this happens a lot with e-commerce tags, where you're loading a view item through the data layer, and then after a while, the Google tag is loaded. So if you're testing your setup, make sure that the order is right. And again, you should load your consent tags first, then you should load your Google tag, and then you should load your events tags. So the fifth reason that I see often with cookie banners is this. The cookie banner doesn't match the brand of your site. And you should be aware that the cookie banner is the first thing that people see on your site. And if it doesn't match, and often, if you follow my advice, the entire web page is blocked. It's covered with some form of transparent background, maybe dark transparent background. You kind of see the site, but not very clearly. So the cookie banner has to be in line with the brand of your site to let people know that they're on the right page. You don't want people to drop off because they thought they were on the wrong page. This means take 15 to 20 minutes just to apply your color scheme, the proper fonts. But what I really like to do is the border radius. So if you have a design on your site with a lot of squares, just make the buttons square too, if the buttons on your site are square. Also, if you have round buttons on your site, for instance, make them round in your cookie banner. So make sure that the cookie banner matches the brand of your site as closely as possible, because this is the first thing that people see and you want to be able for them to know that they're on the right page. You can even include your logo on the cookie banner to let people know that they're on the right site. Mistake number 6 that really ties into the last one as well. It's the first thing that people see on your site, so you don't want to choose a cookie banner that takes ages to load, or that takes ages to accept or deny cookies, that takes ages to save the preferences. I've seen cookie banners that if I press accept or I press deny, I see this spinner over it. Or I've seen cookie banners that just take a lot of time to load and that really impact the site speed. You don't want that. It's the first thing that people see on your site. Don't make people wait. So to solve this, you can just get a faster CMP or use my free cookie banner, a link in the video description. Problem number 7 with cookie banners is that some cookie banners, some consent management platforms block Google Tag Manager altogether. This means that everything in Google Tag Manager gets blocked, even the privacy-friendly tracking, even functional cookies that you're sometimes using. What you should do is you should implement blocking on the individual tags, not the entire container altogether. So make sure that your consent management platform is not blocking Google Tag Manager, but you're controlling the loading of the individual tags within Google Tag Manager, for instance, through consent mode. So problem number 8 really ties into the last one. And that is that some consent management platforms tend to block certain requests to vendors, or they tend to remove cookies. I've seen this with multiple suppliers and they're often not really transparent about it. I can't find anything about it in the docs, but I had this, for instance, this GA4 property that had like a high number of not set traffic in their traffic sources. They had a high bounce rate. They had like a really high new user ratio. And it turned out that the GA4 cookie was loaded on load, but then the CMP was removing the GA4 cookie right after that. And it took me a long time to figure this out. But the way that I like to work, I don't like to rely on automatic blocking by consent management platforms, because I have bad experience with that. They tend to do more harm than good. The way that I like to work is I want to control what gets loaded and what doesn't get loaded. And for that, I completely disable all automatic blocking mechanisms, so I have complete control and I can make sure that the data collection is actually good. Problem number 9 has to do with the automatic scanners that a lot of these consent management platforms come with. They scan your site to look for new cookies on your site in order to make an auto-generated privacy policy. And this is, of course, wonderful. This is the primary reason that I would use a consent management platform, especially with larger organizations. However, these scanners, these are just robots or servers that are just browsing through your site, and these tend to pollute your GA4 report badly. I've had this with Cookiebot, for instance, where like every month I get, I believe it was a couple of hundred or maybe even a couple of thousand visitors from nowhere that spent like 0 seconds on the site. It was just really polluting the rest of my data. So implement a filter by IP or by user agent string to prevent this. So problem number 10 is more like a philosophical one, but I have seen clients rely too much on a consent management platform and they forget to really carefully implement and test their setup. A consent management platform can give you a false sense of security to think that because you've purchased it and because you put the tag on your site, that everything is fine. But you should still go through the implementation instructions very carefully and test your setup to make sure that your setup is actually compliant. Don't lean into this sense of false security, because getting a CMP, it does not equal a compliant setup. You need to follow through, you need to follow the instructions, and you need to test your setup to make sure that you're actually compliant. Problem number 11. I have found a lot of sites actually still without consent mode. And of course, this is a problem because without consent mode, you cannot use Google Ads retargeting. So consent mode is not strictly a legal requirement, but it really helps, especially when you're using the Google Ads platform. But also if you use Google Tag Manager, it's just a good mechanism to control like which of the individual tags are loaded and which of the individual tags are not loaded. So implement consent mode. You can watch my videos to implement these things yourself. So problem number 12 is people implement consent mode sometimes more than once, and they're not aware of that. So you implement consent mode via Google Tag Manager, which is fine, but then also hard-coded somewhere is a G tag that also has consent mode on it. Or you have both a cookie banner and a manual consent mode setup. And the consent signals can potentially interfere with each other and might even block important tags. So to get consent mode and your setup under control, you need to remove everything but one. And I like to implement consent mode the manual route via Google Tag Manager. But whatever option you choose, you should be sure that that is the only implementation out there. So remove everything, check if there's a different source of consent mode signals, and then remove those, and then set up your implementation properly. Number 13 is people often forget to apply consent to their individual tags. So they have a cookie banner, they have set up consent mode, but then they post a TikTok pixel or a meta ads pixel, and then they forget to apply the consent to that tag. You need to set that tag to be blocked without ad storage consent signals. This is even easier to forget in a server-side Google Tag Manager setup where consent overview is not so well integrated yet. You should check this because, of course, you cannot collect personal data and share that with TikTok and meta ads before you have explicit consent for that. Problem number 14 that can really hurt your data and is also not compliant is when people are using hard-coded tags alongside Google Tag Manager. So they have Google Tag Manager and implement tracking there, but then they want to implement a meta ads pixel and then they hard-code that in the code base of their site. And then it's just really hard to control what data is collected and if it's really compliant. So a good check to do is just to pause all your tags, then go into your site, open up the source code, look for Facebook pixels, and remove all hard-code based trackers from your website's code base and move those over to Google Tag Manager. Keep your tracking in one place to make sure that the data is collected well and it's also a compliant setup. Problem number 15 is of a different order, but it's still very valuable if you're in digital marketing, and that is you should know the consent ratios of your cookie banner. It surprises me that often a client finds out that, for instance, 60% of the people are accepting their cookies, or 70 or 80% of the people are accepting cookies, and that they're like really surprised. You should know what percentage of your users are accepting cookies, because you're most likely, if you're using a cookie banner, you're most likely not tracking everyone. You're tracking a percentage of users, and you should know exactly what that percentage is, because that percentage becomes the lens in which you look at your reports. If you see 100 users, you know that in reality that amount is a little bit more because people have clicked deny and those people are not in that report. So be sure that you know the exact consent ratios of your cookie banner. Problem number 16 ties into that a little bit, and that is you should keep a log of your consents. And consent management platforms do this automatically, so this is really an added benefit of a consent management platform, that they keep a log of everyone that has clicked yes and no in your cookie banner, anonymously of course. But with custom solutions like the one that I offer in the video description for free, they don't do this by default. And this has two implications. One, you don't know the percentage, the consent ratios, because you don't track it. But also it's kind of a requirement under the GDPR at least to keep a log of every consent that you have. Even though it's very impractical, I don't see the practical use of it. I've talked about this before in other videos. But since it's a requirement, it's advised to keep a log of every consent. And you can do this in a couple of different ways, but I think the best way to do this is in a privacy-friendly tool like Matomo. You can set it up that it completely runs without cookies, and you can use that to store the consent state of your cookie banner. And I think that is the best option because it has another benefit and it ties into problem number 17. Problem number 17 is that people don't know their true user and conversion stats. And of course, we've already talked about it. You're not tracking 100% of your users. If you're using a cookie banner, you're tracking a percentage. So the reports that you open up, they contain a percentage of data. And what you want is with your user stats, with your conversion stats, you want to know the true number as well. So in GA4, you might track 70% of your users. That has a certain number, but you want to have some form, some benchmark form where you know, like, okay, last month in GA4, I see 100 users, or I see 200 or 1,000, or maybe 1 million users, but this is my true number. And with conversions, it's the same. In your reports, in your GA4 reports, you'll most likely see 100 or 1,000 or 100,000 conversions, but you want to know the true number as well. And you can get these numbers various ways. I already mentioned in the previous problem that you can implement Matomo, for instance, that it runs completely without tracking any personal information, without cookies. But you can also use server logs for this. And for the conversion data, you can, for instance, just log into your form module or your e-commerce module and find out the true conversion stats there. And there are ways to just import these into your dashboard to know, okay, GA4 tells me this, but these are the real numbers. So you know you have in one place the delta between the reality and the numbers in your reports. Here is problem number 18, and this is a different angle again, but I believe it's crucial for your marketing, for your digital marketing. And that is, don't use dark patterns. People are, for instance, hiding the denied button. So it'll make it hard for people to not accept cookies. And well, there is a large segment of users that don't care about their privacy, but there are a lot of people that do care about their privacy. And again, a cookie banner is the first thing that people see on your site. And if those people see a cookie banner, people are not stupid. If they see a cookie banner where you make it hard for them to reject cookies, you have a lot more work to do later on to restore that trust. So my recommendation is to don't use dark patterns. Set the accept and deny buttons on the same level. Make it equally as hard for people to accept or deny. It shouldn't be harder for people to deny cookies. People are not stupid, and also it's not compliant. So even though you use a cookie banner, even though you've set up consent mode, you went through all the hassle of setting it all up, but then if you hide the deny button, the consent is not even valid. So if some authority checks your site, you will most certainly get a warning for this. And if you don't comply, you will get a fine for this. Again, make it equally as easy for people to accept and deny the cookie banner. Problem number 19 is of the same order, but I see a lot of cookie banners where if people open up the settings, they see a list of settings and they are all checked. You should set the checkboxes for marketing and for analytics and stuff like that. You should deselect these by default. It should be an active act of consent for people to accept these cookies. So another dark pattern that I come across sometimes is this one, and it really annoys me a lot. It is problem number 20, and that is that people treat the users that click deny differently from the users that click accept. So the users that set deny, they will see the cookie banner every time they open up the app. They will see the cookie banner again. But if the users accept the cookie banner, then you won't see the cookie banner for another year. So you should treat the people that click accept and the people that click deny the same way. Problem number 21, we're almost there. Never have legitimate interest checks in your cookie banner. So I come across these sometimes where you have checks for consent, but you have also checks for legitimate interest. If you feel that you can track user data under the basis of legitimate interest, it's not an option. It's a message. Like, we're tracking this data on the basis of legitimate interest. However, in digital marketing, it is most likely not a compliant basis for data collection of personal data, because the data collection is mainly in the interest of you as a brand and not so much in the interest of the user. Problem number 22, if people accept or deny cookies, they should be able to make up their mind and change their settings later. This is at least a requirement under the GDPR. So give people control. And by the way, this is why you see all these annoying widgets on their site. So if you accept cookies, sometimes you have this, Cookiebot has this by default. You have this, it's a round button. I don't know what the official name of it is, but it floats in the bottom right or the bottom left corner, and it is way too intrusive. I always disable that. The way that I like to do this, I like to give people the option of altering their consent later on, but I just put a link to the privacy statement in the footer or the cookie statement. And if people click that, on there, they will find a panel where they can alter their cookie preferences. You can do this with Cookiebot. You can do this with my free solution that you can download for free via the link in the video description. So the last one, problem number 23, is people tend to forget about embeds. We've talked a lot about trackers, Metapixel, Google Ads, things like that. And if you have those under control, you're well on your way. However, there are other things on your site that can collect data. For instance, a YouTube video that you embed, or a piece of content from Instagram or X or any other platform. If you embed a piece of content from another platform on your site, that piece of code will most likely place cookies and track user data. So the way to implement this is to show these pieces of content only whenever someone gave consent. If somebody didn't give consent yet, show them a notice like, you need to give consent for this before you can view this content, and then click here and then they see the cookie banner, and then they can accept cookies if they want to. All right, that's it. We've covered over 20 problems that you can have with your cookie banner that can hurt your digital marketing or your data collection. Did you find anything in your consent mode setup, in your cookie banner setup, that you were able to solve through this video? Or do you have any other question? Please leave them down in the comments below. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.